What's up YouTube, Gemini Johnny back again with another compilation of some of the wildest TikTok conspiracy theories I can find. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to start out with some TikTok conspiracy theories, but then I'm going to do a highlight run of a Reddit thread that I found last week that I literally have not been able to stop thinking about. If it's true, then it's one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever read. And due to the follow-up questions that was given to the original poster, I'm kind of thinking that they're being honest. So this will all tie in. You guys will see what I'm talking about later. And that's enough teasing. That's all I want to say for now until we get into it. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
This device right here has sent me down the deepest rabbit hole. And that's because this is a source of free energy that has a very mysterious history and could be linked to UFOs.
But for several years now, a small group of scientists here has been investigating a strange new space-age metal, a nickel-titanium alloy called nitinol.
In cold water, nitinol turns soft. Bend it and it stays bent, but in hot water it springs back with forces as high as 55 tons a square inch. No one knows quite why this happens. Several years ago, McDonnell Douglas began experimenting with nitinol in the form of springs. At room temperature, the nitinol wire springs bend easily, but in warm water they spring back, thus forcing the wheel around. Even stranger, nitinol wires get stronger the more they're used. They develop a double memory. They not only contract in the warm water, but they begin to stretch of their own accord in the cool water. Nitinol can be trained.
And then there's this document that was written from the Battelle Memorial Institute to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio in 1949. And of course, the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is known for allegedly storing the crashed UFO that happened in Roswell in 1947, which was just 2 years before. And in this document, they're talking about the different alloys that they're testing, and they were giving a progress report on those tests. And at this time, nitinol went by a different name. And a lot of the serious UFO researchers believe that the Battelle Memorial Institute was the organization that was given the contract to examine and test all the metals that were retrieved from the Roswell crash. And one more interesting thing about Battelle is that they are the same organization that invented coating and metals that were used on spy planes that were then later used on the U-2 and the SR-71.
Well, my mic was muted that whole time. But dang, that's crazy. Free energy right there. How have we never heard of this metal? I know how we've never heard of this metal.
This is not a conspiracy. This is scary. So in 2018, scientists discovered a black hole 16 million light years away. They're watching it literally swallow a star. Black hole.
And where is it going?
Listen to this. What they thought they knew of black holes, well, they don't know a lot, but it's just like stuff gets sucked into it because it's just this mad force of gravitational pull that just sucks everything in.
Yeah.
This year, it was 3 years after they discovered this. This year, they looked at the same black hole and it was spitting the star back out. Like, so light and stuff was coming out of this black hole. Just like, so it was like regurgitating this star.
Just recycling it.
Like broken apart though. So it's like, what's on the other side of that black hole?
It was the star was broken?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought a star was just a ball of gas.
It is.
It's shooting.
But light and stuff was coming out of it. Like, so it was like it sucked the star in with the light, like the fire, all that, whatever a star is, and it was spitting it straight back out.
So black holes can eat and then fart? That's what I'm hearing? They eat other stars and then fart them out? That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh, Gravity Falls, it is good to be back!
Says Gravity Falls tried to tell us.
And I take it you're some kind of living ventriloquist dummy? I'm just kidding, I know who you are, Gideon. What are you? How do you know my name? Oh, I know lots of things.
Lots of things.
Hey, look what I can do. Deer teeth, for you, kid. You're insane. Sure I am. What's your point?
At least he fixed the deer.
Reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, cold. Bye. Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, cold. Bye. Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, cold. Bye. Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Bye, cold. Bye.
It is crazy when they put stuff like that into TV shows.
Sir, it's...
Another one.
The devil.
Greetings, your tinseliness, imperious leader of Hollywood.
Burning question. Are the Illuminati real? And if so, why haven't I been invited? Garfield, where are you? I know you know. I know you know. Now, for those of you experienced...
Yeah, I was like, and then I don't know if you've had this, but I've had people throw millions of dollars in my face to do something I didn't want to do. And what? Just, you've been off. Oh, they're in the room.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
That was my way of cueing it. Like, it's open dialogue.
Yeah. You want me to keep talking about it?
By all means, we can keep talking about anything. But
don't do it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Y'all remember what Jim Carrey was saying? You know, I do lean towards the belief that a lot of these things that are put in TV shows are just to troll, you know? They're just to kind of play along, play into the conspiracy theories and just be like, yeah, wink, wink, yeah, we gotcha. And like same with Andrew Garfield playing along, Kevin Hart doing the thing. But then they don't have to do that. Andrew Garfield could have been like, oh yeah, I'll invite you next Saturday. Kevin Hart could have, you know, been like, of course, yeah. Who hasn't been offered millions of dollars? I don't know. It just seems like they didn't need to do those things. But then, you know, it's not proof of anything by any means, you know? But I think we can all agree there's some weird stuff that goes on in Hollywood, right?
Did you know there's a theory that time could flow differently in other dimensions? Let's dive into the mind-blowing world of the dark clock theory. Imagine a universe where a minute for us is a millennium somewhere else. This isn't just sci-fi. Some scientists believe that parallel universes or hidden dimensions could have their own unique timelines. String theory even suggests there are hidden dimensions all around us. And guess what? Time could be looping, flowing backward, or even standing still in these unseen realms. Ever heard of wormholes? They might connect different points in space and time, or even different universes. Step through one, and who knows what kind of timeline you'll end up in. The universe is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Follow for more mind-blowing cosmic secrets.
Oh, to be a guy sitting on a cloud staring out at the cosmos. I mean, you know, it reminds me of Interstellar, which takes me back to my theory about all the ancient and classical myths and stories and things holding some shred of truth, and they actually stem from something that actually happened, but we just look at them as wives' tales or whatever now. Don't get me wrong. Not 100% on that theory, but it's just one that I kick around that I think probably has some truth to it, especially with all this alien stuff coming out, man. Speaking of which,
we're not alone.
I think y'all remember Lue Elizondo?
Universe, and it is a simple fact, and the U.S. government has been aware of that fact now for decades. The United States has been involved in the recovery of objects, vehicles of unknown origin that are neither from our country or any other foreign country that we're aware of. We as a nation have been interested in not only the vehicles themselves, but the occupants of these vehicles to include biological specimens.
Man, look, this is starting to get into, in case you guys haven't been able to tell what the theme of today's video is, it's freaking aliens and outer space and time travel and interdimensional stuff. Yeah, Lue Elizondo, famous whistleblower / also he is technically like a government employee, so I don't really understand how he's whistleblowing, but also still, I don't know. Kind of seems like he's the guy they're allowing to be a whistleblower to me. I don't know, allegedly, that's just what I think. But that being said, he did do a crazy interview last week, which to be fair, he's not really saying a whole lot of new stuff. He's kind of been saying the same stuff forever. Look, all I'm saying, there's something going on, all right? And I know, like, I feel like I'm going crazy when I start reading this thing that I'm about to get into, this Reddit post that I briefly mentioned at the beginning of this video. But I think most of you are probably on board with me. I know there's a few of you that I've seen in the comments that fully don't believe in aliens and you think it's all a psyop. That's fine. Just, you know, go into this next thing with an open mind and hear it out is all I'm saying, because it's not so much the post itself. Like, the post could be faked. Anybody could probably come up with the post that I'm about to show you. There is a certain level of like scientific and biological and like anatomy knowledge that's going to be in there that you do need to have some sort of understanding of to be able to come up with all this. Like, I wouldn't be able to write this because I'm not as smart and I don't know half the words that are in the thing. But somebody educated in that field would be able to fake this. And what really sells me is the comments and the replies to comments. All right, I will warn you, this is a very long post. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I'm going to read some of the beginning, and then I'm going to kind of paraphrase some of the other stuff, and we'll scroll through so you can see it all yourself. But this is from a deleted account in the r/aliens subreddit. Okay, so somebody posted this a year ago. And they said, from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, I worked as a molecular biologist for a national security contractor in a program to study exobiospheric organisms, or EBOs, which is how this person refers to them throughout the post. I will share with you a lot of information on this subject. Feel free to ask questions or ask for clarifications. So yeah, as the title says, this is a person who claimed to have worked for some private contractor that was hired to study exobiospheric organisms, which, as you'll come to see, are the things that have been the things that are always mentioned in that these government officials are always so careful about saying biologic entities. This guy person is claiming to have studied those from the 2000s to the mid 2010s. From the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, I worked as a molecular biologist for a national security contractor in a program to study exobiospheric organisms, or EBOs. The aim of the program was to elucidate the genome and proteome basis of these organisms. Although the study of OBCs has been going on for decades in other programs, the new high throughput DNA sequencing technologies of the late 90s unblocked stagnant research in this area. Since then, several breakthroughs have led to significant advances in our understanding of the genome and proteome of these beings. What we've learned so far has enabled us to outline some disconcerting perspectives about our place in the universe. Briefly, we've discovered that the EBO genome is a chimera of genomes from our biosphere from an unknown one. They are artificial, ephemeral, and disposable organisms created for a purpose that still partially eludes us. I'll be substantiating my statements after a brief introduction. Okay, so no lie, I had to look up ephemeral, because I've heard that word before, but I couldn't have told you off the top of my head what it meant. And it means lasting for a markedly brief time. So these things are artificial. These things that are inside, that are manning, well, as he'll explain, these things that are allegedly manning these UFOs or whatever are artificial. They don't live very long, and they're disposable. So they're basically little like robot pilots for these things. The reason for disclosing these secrets is quite simple. I believe that every human being has the right to know the truth, and that to progress, humanity needs to divest itself of certain institutions and organizations that will probably not survive these revelations in the long term. I'm aware that I'll have very little impact in this regard, but I still believe that small leaks are necessary to break the dam of misinformation on this subject. When the governments will eventually reveal these secrets, there will undoubtedly be a social upheaval, but in my opinion, the longer we wait, the worse it will be. I choose to divulge what I know anonymously, out of the selfishness for the well-being of myself and my family. I'm aware that this diminishes the reach and credibility of my message, but it's the furthest I am willing to go. I chose this forum because it offers a good compromise between anonymity and popularity. In order to protect my anonymity, I will be purposefully vague and even contradictory about information that it could identify me, date, education, role, etc. I'll even introduce red herrings in this respect. But I want to make it very clear that any information related to the subject of the research will not be treated in this way. Cool. So he's going to try to stay anonymous. He might change some information, but he won't change information about the actual research of these things. Before going any further, please excuse me if you find it difficult to understand what I'm explaining. Some parts of my text are very technical. This is absolutely true. There was a lot of this I didn't fully understand, but I kind of have a grasp on what they're basically saying. It's difficult to find the right balance between vulgarization and scientific explanation. I'll continue by talking about myself. What's the point of talking about me knowing that the information will necessarily be misleading? I simply want to introduce a perspective on the type of people who work there, normal scientists. I have a PhD in molecular biology. I didn't actively seek to be a part of this program. Rather, it was a stroke of luck that introduced me to one of the senior scientists. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, this whole paragraph, all they're saying is they have a PhD in molecular biology. They got this job as a stroke of luck because they met one of the head scientists at some conference or something. But we'll cut out the bulk of that. To get the job, I did a series of 3 increasingly suspicious interviews, each in a different location, where my scientific background and knowledge became less and less relevant. The first was with 2 of the senior scientists, the second and third with people I'd never seen again and who were obviously not interested in science. Sometime after the interview, I was asked to go to a 4th location where what seemed like a corporate lawyer presented me with an NDA. He made sure not only to explain every detail, but also that I understood the consequence of not respecting it. The first employment weeks were by far the most memorable, although I spent most of that time in a depressing archive room. It consists almost exclusively of reading about the subject of study and to get us up to speed. There's no secret Wikipedia or even a reference book to guide us. There are only dry reports, memos, presentations, procedures, and SOPs. These documents are almost exclusively about the biology of EBOs, but there are also a few that deal with other subjects such as their food, religion, or culture. There were no documents on their technology. This is one of the things that I found so interesting. If this all comes out to be true, is that we have knowledge of their food, religion, and culture already. I want to know that, dude. Oh my God, I've always been so curious about the food. As mentioned above, the aim of the project is to gain a better understanding of the EBO genome and proteome. Right, in this paragraph, he's basically talking about the scientists that work there, how there's roughly, I think he said roughly 20 or so, plus a few security guards and a few like managerial type of people. The laboratory itself is located in Fort Detrick, Maryland, in a building used for legitimate biomedical research, which I also found interesting. It's not like some private facility where they're literally doing this research, if this is true, next to other just regular old biomedical research. And that is nuts to me. Clandestine operations are carried out in a restricted part of the basement, out of sight from regular workers. Contrary to what one might imagine, the biosafety level is not maximal for this type of research. Again, another mind-blowing thing. Indeed, the lab containing EBO samples or derived cell cultures is BSL-3, while the lab where assays are conducted are only BSL-2. This BSL-2, BSL-3 thing is another thing I had to look up, but it was for like biosafety level or something. But it's basically like the level of standards that are needed per, like you need the higher, I think it goes the higher, the more precautions you need or something. So the BSL-3 area of the facility includes a freezer room and a cell culture lab and is only accessible through the antechamber from the BSL-2 section. EBO carcasses are preserved in horizontal freezers at a temperature of -80 degrees Celsius nominal. To maximize the preservation of these carcasses, they are preserved in vacuum bags and the air in the room is controlled to minimize humidity. There are only 4 bodies and none of them are complete. Another thing I found interesting. It's obvious that these creatures have died as a result of major trauma. I've never witnessed a motorcycle accident fatality, but it probably looks similar to this. It is acknowledged that there are more EBO carcasses at other locations. The cell culture laboratory, as its name suggests, is where cell lines derived from EBOs are grown and related activities are performed. All right, we're getting to the good stuff. I promise. We're gonna skip over a little bit of this. This person starts by discussing the genetics. First, I'd like to discuss their genetics. They're like ours based on DNA. This fact was very puzzling for me when I first learned about it. We imagine that beings from an alternate biosphere would have genetics based on a completely foreign biochemical system, and surprisingly, this is not the case. Several conclusions can be drawn from this surprising revelation. The one that immediately comes to mind is that our biosphere and theirs share a common ancestry. They're eukaryotes, I think, eukaryotes, I don't know, which means their cells have nuclei containing genetic material, which suggests that their biosphere would have been separated from ours sometime after the appearance of this type of organism. The term exobiospheric organism is actually a misnomer, but as it's a historical term, it's still used. I found that super interesting too. So they basically have similar DNA to us. What this one was saying was they don't have junk DNA, so they have like almost perfect DNA. And he goes on to explain how this is basically only possible by advanced genetic engineering. And speaking of genetic engineering, following sequencing of their genomes, we notice a troubling and universal characteristic in the 5 of the regulatory sequence of each gene, which we call the tripalindromic region. Okay, again, I don't know what any of this means. This was one of those that I just kind of spaced out because I don't really know what he's talking about, but it's very technical chromosome stuff and genome stuff. So yeah, if anybody knows that whole paragraph and you can explain that to me like I'm 5, please do so in the comments below. Yeah, here he says, one of them suggests that EBO geneticists can insert or remove a gene from a cell in a way that is far more targeted and efficient than our technology allows. Which, look, we all know if these things are out there, they're way more advanced than we are. So of course they have gene editing. Like that's not really that surprising. Yeah, here he's talking about intragenic sequences. And I'm not even going to try to pretend to understand what that means. And then he also said the mitochondrial genome at the time he was working there, or they were working there, had not yet been sequenced, which not even fully sure what that means, but interesting, I guess. And we're going to skip down to their the gross anatomy section. They're morphologically very similar to the gray aliens that are part of modern folklore. Their height is about 150 centimeters, which, what's that in real numbers? Inches, so they're 4 feet tall. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Still, there are some notable differences. The gray skin that is often described in folklore is in fact a biosynthetic film which likely serves to protect the EBO from a hostile environment. It doesn't provide effective protection against temperature changes, but it does offer adequate protection against the passage of liquids. So that's interesting. Under the gray film, the epidermis is rather white and the texture is very regular and without any hair. We do not see any defect other than the folds near the joints. It's described as greasy in one report, but that's not something I've observed. The same report states that a strong, lingering smell of burnt hair and ammonia is present when the film is removed. There are a lot of pores on the skin, crossing from the epidermis to a gland in the hypodermis. These glands and pores are the terminal part of the excretory sudoriferous system, which could explain the previous mentioned smell. The head contains 2 large, oversized eyes, 2 nostrils without protuberance, a narrow mouth without lips, and 2 ear canals with auricles. There is a mandible, but the musculature is vestigial. There are no teeth or tongue in the oral cavity, which I also find interesting. They don't have teeth. The nasal cavity, where the nostrils meet, is compact and does not rise cranially but extends axially. There appears to be no equivalent to the olfactory bulb in the nasal cavity. The mouth leads directly to the esophagus and the nasal cavity to the trachea. Trachea and esophagus do not communicate, which I've always said is a fatal flaw, a literally fatal flaw in humans. Like, how many times have you been eating something too fast, take a big breath, and then choke on the food you're eating? They shouldn't be connected, and it's dumb that they are. And the fact that they are, to me, is not a sign of intelligent design, but, you know, I digress. Eyes. Like the skin, the eyes are covered with a semi-transparent biosynthetic film that offers the same environmental protection while providing protection against certain wavelengths and light intensity. When the film is removed, a more traditional eye is revealed. It's about 3 times larger than a human eye, and there are no eyelids. The size of their eyes suggests that they have excellent night vision. It seems paradoxical to cover them with a semi-opaque film. Perhaps they only need to wear it in a bright environment. The sclera is the same color as their skin. The iris is pale gray and the pupil is black and oversized. The lens is rounder than a human, and the musculature used to adjust focus is more developed. On the retina, there are 6 types of cone cells. The responsiveness of each of these 6 types of cones is specific to a wavelength band with a minimum overlap between each other. So basically, they can see a lot better than we can. The result of is a broader visible spectrum. Now, this was super interesting. The brain is tetraspheric, i.e. composed of 4 major sections. The sections are separated by transverse and longitudinal fissures and are connected to the control lobe, which acts as a brainstem and cerebellum. The volume of the brain is around 20% superior to that of a man of the same height. It has a much more pronounced level of gyrication than an average human. However, the ratio of glial cells to neurons is also slightly higher than in humans. It is important to mention the presence of nodules on the central lobe. Histological analysis of these structures reveals a kind of intricate biological circuitry. It is speculated that these nodules are essential to interact with their technology. Consequently, determining the proteome of these structures is an absolute priority for the program. So they don't fully have it figured out yet. These aliens have a computer in their brains, or these alien robot droid things or whatever, these pilots. They have a computer in their brain that helps them control the UFO. Dude. The neck is proportionally longer than that of a human. Boring, we know that. Thorax. So okay, I will admit, so far, all of this could be made up by anybody who knows alien lore. I will say that. It really is the answers that sells this thing for me. Although, I will, again, to be fair, I had to skip over a few paragraphs because I couldn't comprehend them. So, you know, maybe not just anybody who knows alien lore could do it. There are no nipples, so that's fun. The abdomen is wider than the thorax. No navel, so they probably have a different birthing system than we do. There are no genitals or anus, which... that kind of sucks. Hands and feet. Their hands have 4 digits, including an opposable thumb on the medial side. Like, again, all stuff that we kind of know if you know about aliens, like, allegedly what they're supposed to be. They have no nails, and the texture of their fingerprints is composed of concentric circles. That's interesting. The endoskeleton is very similar to ours, at least in terms of composition. There's collagen, hydroxyapatite, but also copper oxide crystals where marrow would normally be found. This was super interesting. So they don't have bone marrow, they have copper oxide crystals. What if all this time we thought that we thought they wanted gold? They want copper. They don't care about the gold. Or maybe they can replace the copper with the gold, and so they do want the gold. I don't know. The role of these crystals has not been established, but it is not crystallopathic condition. The blood cells of the myeloid lineage, or the equivalent for these creatures, therefore mature in a different location than in humans, i.e. in the thymus-like organ. So that's weird. Their biological system, the respiratory system. Their cellular respiration is equivalent to ours, i.e. they need to oxidize organic compounds to produce energy. So basically, they gotta breathe stuff. And largely, they're pretty similar to us when it comes to their heart, their blood, their internal systems. A lot of it's very similar to ours, but they do have a much higher plasma level in their blood. And then obviously they have higher levels of copper in their blood because, you know, their bones are made of copper. I mean, their bone marrow is made of copper. All right, so this is the excreto-sudoriferous system, the thing he mentioned earlier. This is what they've called it, excreto-sudoriferous system. The system is completely different from what I've seen. As mentioned earlier, there is no large orifice like an anus or urethra to get rid of biological waste. Instead, there are countless small pores on the surface of the skin. There's a large medial organ called the hepatorenal organ, which acts as both kidney and liver and is central to maintaining homeostasis. This organ is highly vascularized, and the blood must pass through it before returning to the heart. Its role is, among other things, to purify the blood of metabolic waste. Waste is excreted into the equivalent of the ureter, which branches out into 4. Each branch flows towards one of the 4 limbs, and in turn these branches divide until they end up as thousands of excretory pores. The motility of this excretory system is mediated by a weak peristalsis at the proximal level and the 4 main branches. Peristalsis ceases around the first distal junction. As there is no urea cycle, the ammonia concentration at the exit of the hepatorenal organ is very high. This ammonia is carried to the pores and gives a distinct odor I mentioned earlier. The rationale behind this unusual excretory system is directly related to its excreted ammonia, which enables thermoregulation by evaporating on the skin's surface. The greater the physical effort, the greater the metabolism. So basically, they sweat piss. And that's how they stay cool. Gross. Their digestive systems are extremely underdeveloped. I'm guessing they don't eat a whole lot. There's no stomach in the familiar sense. However, there's a pseudo-stomach located at the transition between the thoracic and abdominal cavities. This organ is not involved in digestion, but only serves as a reservoir. A sphincter controls the flow of food into the intestine. The intestine is limited to the equivalent of our small intestine, i.e., it only serves to absorb liquids and nutrients and acts as the main digestion site. Given the absence of teeth, the narrowness and rigidity of the esophagus, the absence of a true stomach, and the absence of defecation, it is strongly believed that EBOs can only consume food in liquid form. It is assumed that given the high metabolic needs of their brains, this food would have a high carbohydrate concentration. In order to meet other metabolic needs, there must also be a high protein content in the food consumed. These two statements are supported by the type of enzymes secreted by the digestive organ. It is therefore speculated that the food consumed is a sort of broth rich in sugar and protein. Sounds gross. Knowledge of the endocrine system is minimal. The immune system is another unknown. The nervous system is also relatively similar. The spinal cord begins at the base of the central lobe of the brain and propagates down the vertebral column. So pretty much same as humans. Musculoskeletal system is very ordinary, albeit underdeveloped. We speculate that artificial molecular machines may be present in the body, and that copper, if present, would be essential to their function or assembly. All right, and this is the first question that was asked that he added to his own post, or they added to their own post. Amazing story. Have you shared this with the Senate Selection Committee or Intelligence with the AARO? And do you have evidence to back this up? Thank you. No, I haven't, and no, I won't. It sounds like a honey trap to me. I will not place my life in the hands of politicians. I have no proof other than this message. I know it's not much, but it's what I'm prepared to offer. Question 2. Well, that was a read. So they are bioengineered worker bees. Any elemental components that are unattributable to our biome? Yes, knowing they're disposable, unable to live independently without technological support, and that they're ephemeral. The only suitable hypothesis is that they are alive only to accomplish their task. This was also super interesting. I haven't read everything in detail, but can you expand on the document on their religion? EBOs believe that the soul is not an extension of the individual, but rather a fundamental characteristic of nature that expresses itself as a field not unlike gravity. In the presence of life, this field acquires complexity, resulting in negative entropy, if that makes sense. This gain in complexity is directly correlated with the concentration of living organisms in a given location. With time and with the right conditions, life in turn becomes more complex until the appearance of sentient life. After reaching this threshold, the field begins to express itself through these sentient beings, forming what we call the soul. They are literally, oh my god. Through their life experiences, sentient beings will in turn influence the field in a sort of positive feedback loop. This in turn further accelerates the complexity of the field. Eventually, when the field reaches a critical mass, there will be a sort of apotheosis. It's not clear what this means in practical terms, but this quest for apotheosis seems to be the EBO's main motivation. What's apotheosis mean? Exaltation to divine rank or stature, deification, elevation to a preeminent or transcendent position, glorification. Oh, good. So the aliens just want to be God. That's it. Okay, sweet, cool. Good to know. He continues about religion. The author of the document added his reflections and interpretations as an appendix. He specified that for them, the soul field is not a belief, but an obvious truth. He also argues that the soul loses its individuality after death, but that memory and experience persist as part of the field. This fact would influence the philosophy and culture of EBOs, resulting in a society that doesn't fear death, but which places no importance or reverence on individuality. This belief compels them to seed life, shape it, nurture it, monitor it, and influence it for the ultimate purpose of creating this apotheosis. Paradoxically, they have little little or no respect for an individual's well-being. Which kind of sucks to think about, that they don't really care about your individual's well-being. They only care about the collective whole. To be fair, he did say, please be advised that I'm speaking from memory of something that I read more than 10 years ago, so take the following with a grain of salt. Also, I'm not a philosopher or artist, so please excuse my struggle to properly formulate the concepts and my dry terminology. Finally, note that this information comes from a document whose author was directly interacting with an EBO. It is not specified whether it was an ambassador, a crash survivor, a prisoner. The means of communication were not specified either. Somebody said he dropped the location of the lab. Battelle National Biodefense Institute. Oh shit, you can just... That's just a thing you're allowed to know? Bro, it's just on Google Maps. That's crazy. While recording, didn't catch that this guy in this Reddit thread that we're reading right now is talking about Battelle Institute. If you go back to the beginning of this video, the very first TikTok we saw with the strange metal that expands in heat and shrinks in cold, they were studying that at the Battelle Institute. Are you kidding me? How did I not know this? Oh my god. All right, y'all feel free. I'm gonna look into that place some more later. Right now, let's get back into this Reddit thread because I want to get to these answers before this video gets too long. Don't go to that place. I promise you, nothing will end well if you go to a place like that. You don't want to go to a place like that. This was a message from the mod. As of 11:29 hours, OP deleted their account. They refused to provide verification of their identity and/or credentials. So take this write-up for what you will, which is fair. Take the write-up. Take this for what you will. Take it with a grain of salt because this person didn't provide any proof. They didn't come out and say that with their, their own face. They did this anonymously. So, it is hard to say. Like, pics or it didn't happen, right? Now, this is the answer that questions that kind of made me be like, oh shit, what am I reading here? From another deleted account. Okay, throw that out there. Some technical questions. Genetic scarring. Any evidence of similar viral infections or genetic mutations that are detectable across evolutionary timescales? 2. Our genetic evolution pertaining to weakening of the jaw muscle that prevented our skull plates from fusing and hence accommodating our growing brain has any detectable traces of manipulation? 3. How do homologies show up in their anatomy? The similarities between shared structures across organisms. 4. What about HOX genes and embryology? 5. Is their nervous system similar to ours, as in lateralization? What about language areas like Wernicke and Broca's? I don't know what any of this means, by the way. 6. The telomeres. How do these organisms age? I will ask more technical questions based on your reply to these. 1. The genetic scarring? None, other than in the so-called terrestrial gene directly copied. And you'll see here, this is OP, also deleted still. 2. The genetic evolution thing, the weak jaw. The artifacts of human evolution are not present. They don't have wisdom teeth or a coccyx either, if you must know. Which, I believe, coccyx is the tailbone, right? Yeah. Yes, they don't have a tailbone. Interesting. 3. How do homologies show up in their anatomy? We can see single nucleotide polyformisms in human genes that relate to different human populations. I never use the cluster W on their sequence. Again, if you know what any of that means, please help a brother out because I have no idea what's going on here. But my point and my thinking with wanting to show this question, these list of questions and their answers is those are questions that a way smarter person than me would need to be to ask because I wouldn't know to ask any of those questions. Would you have known to ask any of those questions if you came across this post? I'm gonna guess not, unless you have some kind of biomedical engineering or science background. If you have that, you're probably not watching my videos. So yeah, I thought this was really interesting. Let's go to the next one. What about Hox genes and embryology? They're probably present one way or another. So basically, he has a good answer for all of these, right? Then this is another person that came in, not the original asker, but Cluster W, damn OP, you're kicking it old school. The rest of you, Cluster W is a sequence alignment algorithm that was commonly used at the time OP says they were active in this endeavor. So, this is a thing that was used in the time that they were supposedly at that place doing this work. And then here's the person that asked the questions. Damn, okay, wow, I'm taking you a lot more seriously and lean on you being truthful. Out of curiosity, I will ask you some more questions. And then they go through, is another list of 12 questions, which we're not, this video is gonna end up being way too long and I'm not gonna be able to get through this entire thing. I might do a full breakdown and I might have to do like an hour-long video on this entire freaking thing. But there's a lot, because I'm not even done. I have another thing I wanted to show you guys today. I had this Ask Me Anything that this guy named Ross Coulthart did. This guy, Coulthart, and he said some stuff in there that fucking... And if you're unaware, Ross Coulthart, I did kind of have to look him up. I've heard of him before, but he is a journalist from Australia, and he used to be just like a regular old journalist and would just, do regular reports and stuff, and he kind of made a name for himself. And then he pivoted and started focusing solely on UFOs and trying to prove the UFO thing, right? Or find evidence of UFOs. And he seems, like, again, I can't, you know, speak to the, what am I trying to say? I can't speak to like how true the things that he's saying in here are. I don't vouch for this guy. I don't know him. I don't know much about him other than I've heard his name before. And in this Ask Me Anything, he seems to be pretty straightforward. So yeah, he did this 3 days ago, August 28th, he did this, okay? And let's just go through some of these. Have you ever seen or heard any reports that suggest NHI might be capable of disguising themselves as humans? What's your take on this possibility? Yes. Hi, Ross. Thank you for all you've done and will do for this topic. Is there any merit to the claim that in 2004 there was a blue-on-blue firefight between a JSOC unit and a Lockheed Martin recovery team over UAP craft, resulting in the death of 2 JSOC members? Yes. And if you're unaware, I had to look up blue on blue because I didn't know what that meant, but it basically means friendly fire. It means attack in which soldiers are injured or killed by their own army or by soldiers on the same side as them. So it's basically just friendly fire. Okay. JSOC is Joint Special Operations something. What is it? Joint Special Operations Command. Basically, they do like the highly classified missions, from what I understand. They're a highly classified, they're like above SEAL Team 6, I believe. Not literally, I should take that back. They're not literally above SEAL Team 6, but I think they do like more classified missions than SEAL Team 6 does. But again, I could be wrong, I'm not an expert on that. Thought that was interesting. Would you say we need to draw our attention to our oceans nowadays? There seems to be a lot of strange occurrences there recently. Absolutely. Chris Melton and Rear Admiral Tim Gallado are right on this. This was an interesting answer. Are you aware of government investigations into reports of abductions or either citizens or government military officials? If so, is there any corroboration of overlap with what has been reported by abductees and people like John Mack, Whitley Strieber, etc.? Coulthart responded, I'm certainly talking to people who tell me they have been abducted or that at the very least they have been aware that while they were in a paralysis state in their own home, something was purportedly operating on them. I honestly don't know what to think of these accounts and I'm keeping an open mind. Like all of us, I'm not dismissive of witness testimony. I don't default to the notion that all these people are crazy. There has to be an explanation when you consider the similarity of these independent accounts. And the second question, in a previous AMA, you mentioned psionic abilities as being underappreciated in the common discourse. Can you elaborate on what you meant by this and or which elements/types of abilities are most salient? Psionic, yes. I am very interested in an alleged psionic program that the US government and certain private corporations have been operating for some considerable time. MK Ultra. That's why I recently put Uri Geller on my reality check show. People missed the point of my interviewing him. I've been abused by folks for giving him credibility. Yes, he was accused of being a fraud and a charlatan. But have a look at the CIA library declassified files and look at the work the CIA did with him to show his psionic abilities were allegedly verified as authentic 50 years ago. Stargate process. The Monroe Institute. Cough, cough. They were originally scientific controlled blind studies. Why was the CIA interested in psionic psychic abilities so many years ago, and has it really stopped its interest? I don't think it has at all. I suspect the GATE program, gifted and talented, baby, what's up, that's us, was and probably still is used illegally by the US military and certain private companies to find kids with psionic abilities. Yeah, I was in the gifted and talented program, and I don't remember any government agents coming to see if I could bend a spoon or anything. So, you know, I don't know about that, but hey, who knows? Maybe it was. I've heard other things about a gifted and talented program, like, so, you know, who knows? What I'm hearing is shocking. It makes MK Ultra and Sidney Gottlieb's crimes with LSD and other drugs look like child's play. Interested to hear from anyone who knows what I'm talking about. Ooh, all right, there's a few more. Oh, this was a good one. Hi, Ross. Matthew Pines, which actually don't know who that is either. Matthew Pines, let's see. Oh, I think he's just British advocate who discusses the possibility of government revealing the existence of alien crafts and the impact of Bitcoin on policy. Okay. Oh, he's a Bitcoin advocate who's also into, okay, that's cool. Matthew Pine said a significant figure in American public life is going to come out and make a statement that will push forward disclosure. Are you aware of this? And do you have any idea who it could be? Yes, can't say anymore. Tom DeLonge said there is a connection between the phenomenon and Atlantis. He also mentioned that among the debris from a spacecraft, there were Greek letters. This description matches the footage of the debris that accompanies the alien autopsy video. Has anyone informed you if that video is real? He responded with kind of a cryptic message here. I think Tom DeLonge was given a lot of very authentic information by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the generals Neil McCausland and Michael Carey. That's a weird answer to saying that this is could this be connected to Atlantis? This one was interesting too, I will say. As you've delved into this subject as a whole, have you ever found you've had any direct experience with the phenomena, and can you speak about it? No, it's keeping me skeptical by not showing itself. Thought that was interesting. Which, to be fair, If I was heavily studying these things, I would want to see them too. And if they didn't show themselves to me, I'd be pretty skeptical. This person asked if there's a realistic chance we'll see any evidence in the next 6 months. And he said no. So that's kind of a bummer. But in a lot of stuff that I've been reading, I've been hearing 2027 a lot, that there's going to be some big alien disclosure stuff in 2027. And then by 2030, they're going to be like a regular everyday thing, a part of our lives. All right, look, I could keep going for days. I mean, that Ask Me Anything was nuts. It blew my mind. That other Reddit post was nuts. It blew my mind. There's a couple other things that I found that I was reading, and I can't confirm or deny whether they're real or not, but dude, shit's about to get weird. That's all I know. So look, hey, sorry if you were kind of bored. I find that stuff so fascinating, and I hope you guys did too. If you want to see me do like a more in-depth, I kind of went through most of it, but if you want to see me get more in-depth on some of those and do like a standalone video on one of those, I may also need to touch on some other stuff that I found last week that this video is just getting way too long for. But man, what a time to be alive, right? But hey, that's all, folks. We did it. We done it. We're doing it some more. It's not all. There's plenty more. We're going to keep going, but man, that's all for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you. I love you. Go check out my Patreon. It's only 99 cents a month, and you can have the gym crew access 24/7. It's pretty tight. Merch store's live. It's down below this video. You can find it. We got new stickers, new hoodies. We got all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be dropping some new stuff too for just in time for spooky season. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to check out those Reddit posts yourself, you can. I will post those in the description of this video, so you can go scan through that and see if there's anything I missed. But if you find anything, send it over to me. Let me know. Come back and comment on this video and let me know. Before we get out of here, drop a like for me. It does help spread the video to more people, and helps more people see the video. Oh, I'm tired of getting delirious. All right, I appreciate you. I love you. So until next time, seek the truth.